Indie animated series are on the rise lately, with a lot of new pilots coming out with the hope of becoming full-fledged series. And lately, the one everyone wants me to talk about is called The Art of Murder, a show about different characters from different fandoms being brought to life through fan art. So let's talk about the show, why it's captured the heart of so many animation fans, and what we might expect next. My name is Deepcut, welcome back to Cartoon Universe, hit that subscribe button for more indie cartoon goodness, and let's dive in. The Art of Murder is a show that takes place, at least so far, entirely in the bedroom of a teenage girl named Pip, who is the kind of girl that a lot of fandom nerds can relate to. She isn't just a fan of anime, video games, western animation, or comic books, but really anything that is fandom driven is something she can enjoy. Because of that, she seems to spend a lot of time in her room, and a lot of her day drawing her favorite characters. At night when Pip sleeps, however, her art comes to life, clawing their way out of the pages and appreciating the growing art skills of Pip and her collection of fandom merchandise. Typically, Pip draws 4 characters, all heavily inspired by real-life shows. The first character we see Pip draw is Sosuke, who is a very obvious parallel to the character of Sasuke from Naruto, an edgy ninja who only speaks Japanese since Pip will not watch the English dub apparently. After this, Pip draws Princess Almond Blossom, or Albie as they call her, who is the traditional 2D animated Disney princess. She appears to be a mix of Snow White with her poster's apple imagery, and a dash of Ariel from The Little Mermaid to give her a somewhat more modern feel, however not so modern that she is in 3D. The show, of course, is entirely 2D animated, but Princess Albie talks a lot about how much she doesn't like the 3D princesses, who she fears will replace her. She tries to distance herself by focusing on her more traditional princess ideas like different dresses and wants to be a good businesswoman instead of an overpowered superhero with magic. Her first movie in Pip's world is just called Princess Story, and she's really just meant to represent all the classic Disney princesses and the fandom that existed before Tangled and Elsa transitioned to 3D and became more adventurous overall. The first character to actually pop out of her sketchbook is this cute little monster named Lynn, who is also a clear parallel to Finn from Adventure Time. In the background of Pip's room, we can even see a poster for her show called Explorer Time. The final character to come out of Pip's notebook is Giorgio, who is a character from one of those Japanese dating simulator games. This one called Ace Romance Detective, a rival to the real-life Ace Attorney games, but in a dating sim format it would seem. The show expertly recreates the characters from the different popular fandoms, similar to the show Invincible on Amazon Prime. Invincible takes place in a superhero world that is a pretty direct copy of the DC Heroes universe, with the leads being parallels to Superman and there being a Justice League knockoff called the Guardians of the Globe and a Teen Titans ripoff called the Teen Team, all with very exact parallels to their DC counterparts. Without direct names of the original characters, all Invincible needs is an element of satire or parody, and the show becomes legal, which is done mostly through the inclusion of gratuitous gore, which we will not show in this video. I've actually done this myself with my animated pilot Garnet, which was about a not Sailor Venus character who likes to get drunk at work. Also, Sarcastic Chorus played the talking cat.
The cat's in a tree, it's because we want to be there. Leave us the f*** alone.
Without those direct names and the elements of satire and parody, shows like Invincible and now The Art of Murder can make pretty direct clones of some real-life copyrighted characters and let them clash with the obvious clones in these fun ways. The show is very Toy Story meets fandoms, and similar to Toy Story, the show deals with the characters realizing that they may not always be their human's favorite thing to draw, and when Pip stops drawing them daily, they stop coming to life at night. It's kind of the ultimate premise for someone who is into the geeky entertainment sphere, even just a little bit, as you don't have to have watched Naruto in order to understand Sasuke, or in this case Sosuke. You already just understand him and the internet people that he represents due to the online culture. The big twist in the pilot is that today, Pip has drawn her first OC, or original character as they are called in fandoms. Generally, this term is used more so to reflect an original character that you have created as part of an existing fictional universe, like making your own original Pokemon or drawing a Sailor Scout to represent some constellation you like. This OC isn't from one of the franchises, however, and is just an original character that Pip is working on, which is a cause of both great excitement but also great fear. At first, the fandom characters are happy because Pip aspires to one day be in animation or fandom-y art in general, and creating an original character is the first step towards creating an original fandom. However, the characters also fear that they will slowly become less interesting to Pip, who may not have time to draw them at all if she becomes successful in one of these projects, or even just becomes more interested in drawing new characters. Princess Albie already feels outdated with the 3D princesses around, and her franchise, despite being successful once, is portrayed as mostly forgotten. Lin, Sosuke, and Giorgio also have similar fears, and they all realize that none are guaranteed to be drawn the next day. The show is of course called The Art of Murder, and this becomes important when the characters rise from the pages again, only to find that the OC's page has been ripped out. The only clues for who may have done this is that Lin seems to be covered in water-like liquid, and Sosuke is covered in dirt. This causes Giorgio to decide that he needs to be the one to solve the murder of OC, investigating which of the fandoms felt so threatened by this OC that they would rip him out of the sketchbook. Now, if you want the answer to that, go watch the episode yourself. It's not like some big twist or anything super exciting, but it gives you something to look forward to with watching it for yourself, while I instead continue to try and convince you with just how beautiful the actual artwork and production for the show is. Now, for those who don't know, I've been interested in animation for a very long time, and I don't really mean watching it as much as the actual production of it. What I love about smaller scale animated productions is how they exploit their limits in order to try and create something awesome. This was the heart of Japanese anime back in the earlier decades, where the low number of frames that the production was given required the storyboard artists and animators to imagine shots with as little motion as possible. Anime has changed a bit since then, but even today, those principles are still in place with a lot of animated productions there, using a lot of the exact same tricks, often just on a different scale in the digital age. Indie projects and just smaller scale productions in general operate on a lot of those same tactics, even when not in a purely anime style, stretching a budget a lot farther than a lot of modern Western animation does these days, where episodes tend to have very formalized standards of quality to maintain a consistent look. In The Art of Murder, we see a bit of this with there being a healthy use of budget-saving animation techniques, but ones that really emphasize the quality of the production overall. When it comes to animation as a whole, I think the beauty is being able to see that whatever budget the creators had, they were able to stretch it into something unexpected. It doesn't matter if you have $10 to make a movie or $10 million, what matters is if you know how to use every trick that exists in a tasteful way, so that any scene that uses them can save money for something else that enhances the experience. With anime, this generally meant more detailed artwork of the characters, but characters that move less often, and who have fewer frames of motion between their key poses. Some people are a bit spoiled by digital vector-based animation for shows like Hell of a Boss, whose animators have become experts at not just having the smooth animation that vectors provide, but using that in more cinematic ways than most other shows with the same software. But in frame-by-frame animation with a lower frame count, you get the chance to really observe each shot, to study how the animators gave us the motion of a character by relying on how we interpret motion in real life, how we notice the key poses of the people around us with what's in between being just fast and often blurry. It even manages to pull off musical numbers with very limited frames, which is something I actually think a lot about for the record. With Disney animated movies, you get this limitless budget where the animators are drawing frame by frame, 24 frames per second with really intense dancing and motion. And this same effect can be done in anime and has been in certain shows like Angel Beats. It's not that we never get shots of the characters just in full motion, especially during the musical sequence, but the show knows how to blend those seamlessly into shots of the characters holding still or just moving in perfect loops. In order to help balance this low frame rate, the show goes out of its way to make sure that no shot ever looks flat. The majority of the story takes place on the desk and shelves of Pip's room, lined with posters and figurines from her favorite shows. Instead of using this as a way to recycle the same generic angles over and over again, every single shot feels like a special perspective that blends the different background elements, the characters, and the beautiful lighting. One thing I hate about modern anime in particular is their over-reliance on lights and glows and haze, which can end up just covering up the actual beautiful animation. But it would be a mistake to claim that this means that I hate it as a whole. One thing I loved about the coming of the digital age was how those kinds of effects looked when used sparingly or even just tastefully, and I would say The Art of Murder definitely fulfills the latter. But don't take my word for it, go check out The Art of Murder if you haven't seen it yet, and if you want to check out my pilot for Garnet Heart, I'll put up a pop-up for that video too, as well as links in the pinned comment down below and the description. See you guys next time.